echo of panic. She rubbed it idly until it subsided, barely noticing the too familiar sensation. "Shouldn't we have one of those for company?" Ngaire said, pointing to the broad shoulder of a suited-up firefighter. "Just to be safe?" In response to the offhand remark, Deb shook her head and shrugged. After a moment, Ngaire realized it wasn't an answer to her question. The mask muffled her voice so effectively that Deb didn't understand what she was saying. The remark wasn't worth the effort of removing the face mask to repeat, so Ngaire just pointed down the alley and set off. The quip may have been meant as a joke, female camaraderie, but for a second, Ngaire's mind went to Finlay. Couldn't he be here, standing strong, loving and protecting her? No. That hurt so much that her thoughts skittered away from it. She turned to look at the smouldering hillside again, willing herself to focus back on the fire. Her breath condensed on the inside of the mask, and soon the bottom half of Ngaire's face was in a dripping sauna, while the top was exposed to the drying breeze. The fierce winds were the main reason that the fire in the hills continued to burn. In its absence, the helicopters dropping buckets of water could work nearly all the daylight hours. With it, they were relegated to sitting back on the tarmac like plump insects, clothed in warning colors of yellow and red. The firefighters worked around the clock to try to save all the properties that they could. The strong water pressure from their hoses flattened rickety fences as they damped strips of lawn for a fire break around every house. 2 streets over, they'd already had to evacuate and give the houses over to the whims of nature. Before they left, the dispatcher insisted that the fire had cleared the area they were heading into and wouldn't be returning that way. Despite his assurances, Ngaire's stomach crawled with unease. The power of destruction she'd witnessed on the nightly news couldn't be held off with mere words. If the fire turned and came sweeping back in its tracks, she and Deb could be in a foot race for their lives. Or she was over-dramatizing. As they walked out into the open hillside, the scene before them was one of utter devastation. Charred land burned free of the scrubby trees that fought each day for life next to the wild gorse that thrived in the harsh conditions. Everywhere Ngaire looked was black, brown, and grey, a complete absence of colour and life. The ash floating in the air caught in her hair and on her skin. When Ngaire looked down at her forearm, it was taupe with the fine grey powder settling on it. She pushed her fingers through her hair to brush her fringe back, and they came away streaked with black marks. Under the weight of the powder, her curls flattened into lank waves. On the far side of the park, Ngaire saw the white flap of an evidence tent. Further down, another PC signalled their attention, a lad wrapped in a silver survival blanket sitting at his side with a paramedic squatting in front. She and Deb made a beeline for them, grateful to have a focus in the midst of the burned-up land. "DC Wheaton and Blakes," Deb said. "Your mate Rand is taking a breather up in your patrol car. He seemed a bit the worse for wear." The PC nodded and pulled down his mask. "I'm Cunningham, and this boy here," he nodded at the blanketed kid. "He's Stephen Toma. Tripped over the body earlier this morning." "Literally," he added after a moment. "Is he okay?" Ngaire asked the squatting paramedic. The man looked up and nodded. "He's got a sprained ankle that I've strapped up. I'll need an X-ray on it later. Other than that," he shrugged, "just suffering a bit of shock." "Stephen," Ngaire said, touching him lightly on the shoulder. During her short conversation, the boy hadn't once looked at her or Deb, preferring to stare straight down at the ground. "Are you okay for us to ask you a few questions? We can go somewhere more pleasant if you prefer." "Not too pleasant," Cunningham said in a gruff bark. When Ngaire raised her eyebrows, he continued. "Stephen here's been targeting the evacuated houses. While their owners are forced out, hoping like hell they still have a home to come back to, this young man decided to help himself to their possessions. He's under arrest." Ngaire's concern for the boy miraculously evaporated. "How did you find the body?" The boy shook his head, continuing to stare at the burned ground between his feet. After a moment.